Come on, team. I need graphics on the InDesign. I need stories on the page. What? I need images in the drive.
Why isn't this printer working?
How are we supposed to get our news out?
What if we don't print though?
What if we broadcast it?
The season's heating up, and so are the stakes. Here's your Chicago Bulls update.
Since February 14th, the Chicago Bulls have posted a 4-13 record, marking one of their toughest stretches this season. Following the trade deadline, the team went on an 11-game losing streak, struggling to find consistency on both ends of the floor. Josh Giddey has stepped up as the team's leading scorer, but even with that, the Bulls have continued to struggle. Part of that inconsistency comes from the major roster changes at the trade deadline. At the trade deadline, the Bulls made roster changes, starting with key players leaving the team. In return, Chicago brought in new talent looking to reshape the roster moving forward. Now the question is, do these moves help or hurt the team?
Biggest problem for the Bulls right now is they just need more veterans. They just need more guys who's going to come in and handle the business and lead the younger guys and everything like that.
I used to be a Chicago Bulls fan, but they traded Ray Ayo. He's a Chicago kid, so I'm no longer a Bulls fan.
They need to get Ja Morant and LeBron. That would really help them out. And Michael Jordan needs to come back.
Currently, they're pretty bad, but I think we could pick some pieces up in the draft to get better.
With questions surrounding the roster and the future of the team, the Bulls have a lot to figure out moving forward.
A new season brings new expectations. Here's what to watch for this year's lacrosse team.
HF Lacrosse is looking to bounce back after a tough season, finishing last year with just one win. But with a young roster and a focus on fundamentals, the team says better days are ahead. After a 1-17 season, HF Lacrosse is starting fresh. With only one win against Kenwood, the team knows improvement is necessary. But they're staying optimistic. Head coach Jason Keene says this year's group is young and inexperienced, with several players picking up a lacrosse stick for the very first time.
Biggest mindset change that we got to have this year is that, especially with all these new guys, is just to keep working and not to be discouraged. And we have a lot of young guys too, so keeping them out to build on to next year.
That growth starts with the basics: passing, catching, and ground balls, before anything more advanced can take shape. Senior captain Emmanuel Rice says building those fundamentals and improving in-game awareness will be key to success.
Some advice I give to new players, because I've been in their shoes before, is just take your time and have patience. This isn't a game that you learn overnight. It's one that it takes days, months, years, all that. It takes time to learn. It takes time to get better and be able to play it properly. So just give yourself time. Don't beat yourself up too much. Make mistakes, because mistakes are what make you better, and so you can learn and become the best lacrosse player you can be.
HF Lacrosse opens the season against Lamont, Butler Rice, and Lincoln Way, where they hope to start turning things around. Reporting for the Voyager, I'm Camille Davis.
In a world full of likes and follows, how real are relationships? Let's see a closer look.
Hey Vikings! This week on WHFH 88.5 FM, it's Voyager Voices, our very own school newspaper live on the air. Students are reading their own articles, sharing stories about school, sports, and more, straight from the source. Tune in daily to hear your classmates' voices come alive on Voyager Voices, only on WHFH 88.5.
Grief doesn't stop the world, but life doesn't either. Here's how to balance both.
Everyone goes through grief in their own way, and that can sometimes get in the way of their personal and outside life. Grief is having deep sorrow specifically for someone's death. People immediately think of how they are going to cope. People's outside life can be completely affected by taking up their whole day to the point where they skip school and activities. HF can help with children battling grief, starting with talking with counselors and social workers. HF provides a grief program run by social worker Lauren White. It is a way for students to talk about what they are going through in their life.
I think overall our teachers do a really good job of caring for students while they're grieving. I know that once a social worker or a counselor knows that a student has lost somebody close to them, we send out what's called a Handle with Care email if the student wants us to, which means that then we'll say like the student lost somebody, please keep an eye on them, allow them some grace with work, that kind of thing.
Teenagers take more time grieving, which gets in the way of their social life. According to Avery's House, a teen mental health treatment home, teenagers have social withdrawal when battling with grief.
I think grief shows up differently for everybody, no matter how old you are, because everybody grieves differently. But specifically with teenagers, I think sometimes it can come out in a couple of ways. One is maybe more like reckless or impulsive behavior, so you can kind of go on that side of the spectrum, or it comes out in like what would look like apathy, so like not really doing anything, isolating yourself, no motivation for school, kind of just like lethargic and withdrawn.
This affects their life emotionally and socially because they are isolating themselves with not only their friends and family, but their academic life. Battling with grief is hard, and almost everyone has experienced or is experiencing the stages of grief. If you are struggling with grief, please be sure to talk to someone about it. Talking with your parents, therapist, social worker, or counselor is one step forward. When you talk to people, it prevents you from isolating and makes you feel more seen about your situation. Reporting for VTV and the Voyager, I'm Zoe Webster.
Here's how Snowflake creates unforgettable memories.
Operation Snowflake and Snow Flurry brought energy, leadership, and connection at HF this week, as students from neighboring schools came together to focus on personal growth, mental health awareness, and building stronger relationships. From the moment they arrived, students were welcomed by high school volunteers, creating a supportive and inclusive environment. Throughout the day, middle and elementary school students participated in activities, group discussions, and team building exercises that encouraged them to step outside their comfort zones, open up, and connect with others around them. What truly made the event special was the impact and leadership of the high school students.
So I think for the kids particularly, it's about community and getting to meet people from different schools who maybe have different experiences or different backgrounds. And then also just a chance to have people to look up to at the high school when they get here, and just a space to be themselves and to enjoy, kind of getting to be in this environment and be around other students who maybe have similar struggles that they do. And then for the high school students, I think it gives them a chance to build on their leadership skills, but also give back to the program, give back to their community.
What started just as one day turned into something much bigger. Through every conversation, every activity, and every connection made, students were reminded of their value and the importance of supporting one another. It's proof that when people come together with purpose, real change happens. This wasn't just another school event. It was a space where students could be real, feel heard, and support each other. The leadership, energy, and presence of everyone involved turned into something meaningful, showing what's possible when people truly show up for one another.
What does it take to grow more than just plants in a community? Here's an inside look at HF's community garden.
HF's garden has been growing fresh produce for over a decade. However, despite its strong roots, the garden has struggled to maintain its use and involvement. The garden was first established thanks to charitable donations from HF alums in 2015. The goal was for students in classes to use the gardens for growing produce and botanicals. Teamwork forms the foundation of the garden and remains the pivotal ingredient in its lasting growth. Volunteer groups like the Flossmoor Green Commission helped in designing and growing the garden in the early stages. Tristan Shaw, the Green Commission chair, tells us all about the initial vision.
The Green Commission is kind of on our phasing out, and the school is allocating more resources to the garden. It really is pretty exciting for the Green Commission because we don't really have the capacity. We're a volunteer organization, so our ability to staff it properly was or is a little bit outside of our scope.
The garden has struggled to maintain student engagement for years, especially because school demands limit student engagement. Given that the growing season is towards the end of the year, classes simply don't have the time to visit the garden every week and upkeep it, and there are no clubs at HF that regularly interact with the garden either. However, HF has begun aiming to incorporate the garden into the new academic pathways and internships. Future classes, such as the Introduction to Sustainable Food Systems class, will hopefully bring more traffic to the garden and introduce more students to the world of agriculture and botany. Local farmer and HF alum Josh Snedden shares what he hopes the garden will give to students.
I think some ideas are to increase interest among faculty and staff as well, and from there creating internship opportunities and collaborating with organizations for students to learn and grow here, but potentially in other food-related organizations in the community.
The garden's potential is unlimited, and as the spring season begins, it will only see more and more use by students and staff. The goal of the garden has always been to introduce students to sustainable living practices and educate them on living more green lives. With new classes and initiatives, it's certain that the garden's future will only grow even more hopeful. Reporting for VTV, I'm Nikolai Lawrence.
Have you seen the online trend where a lot of men are wearing quarter zips and matcha? Here's how to take on that.
We're about a year removed from the performative male trend having another resurgence, this time from the angle of matchas and quarter zips. It started off innocently, but the problem arose when the general public began approaching this movement the wrong way.
Influencer Kyle Memba, nicknamed Kyle the Matcha Man, proclaimed his newfound love for matcha on TikTok in February of 2025. This was genuine, and you could tell that he was real about his enjoyment of the drink. There was no problem with either instance. It was just pure authenticity on display. The core of this movement was to empower Black people, but as it spread, it became a trend. When authenticity went out the window, the movement fell apart. As I scroll on social media or even walk around HF, all of a sudden I saw countless young men sporting quarter zip sweaters. I quickly realized that this had become another trend and that it likely die down soon. However, what I found under it was much more than a harmless trend. It was Black people abandoning their culture.
The performative male trend has always rubbed me the wrong way, because at the end of the day, people aren't being themselves. What I saw is people throwing their culture out the window and assimilating to what they saw around them.
People were wearing quarter zips that they'd never worn before and were only wearing to look trendy and cool, and drinking matchas when bitter drinks weren't even to their liking. Despite the less grave nature of the situation, it still served as self-inflicted forced assimilation. Assimilation is painted all over African Americans' day-to-day lives, whether it be code switching to suppress African American vernacular English, straightening or relaxing natural hair, or avoiding culturally rich clothing to appear more quote-unquote presentable. The examples are endless, and I see this as a less significant, yet still notable instance. This doesn't change the fact that what happened, and is still happening, just at a lesser level, was negative for the Black community. At the core of Black culture is authenticity, and trying to be someone you're not has never and will never cultivate success or progress in African American communities.
The trend has since died down, and those who still wear quarter zips and drink matchas consistently do so with genuine enjoyment. With VTV and the Voyager, I'm Bryce Christian, signing off.
We finally finished the show, guys.
Wait, but the printer's still not working.
Guys, I'm really proud of everyone's work this issue. We really came together as a team.
And you know, we might not be able to print, but we can still do news, and we're still publishing our stories online at hfvoyager.com. Wait, we should do